Well, now we've been joined in the studio by the National Coordinator, the CNG, that's a coalition of Northern Groups, Students Wing, Emuse Gimba Bukunga. She's here in the studio with us in person to speak more on the plight of Northern students and their plans should the increase continue. Welcome to the program. Good afternoon.
Thank you. Good afternoon, sir.
Welcome. All right, let's start. Or before we start, let me let our viewers know that our phone lines are open, so you can call in to make your contributions and ask your questions. Let's start from the beginning. You know, it's always good to get a background. When did this happen? How did it happen? How did you come to know about it? Did you just, I mean, when I say you, I mean students generally. Did they just try to make payments and they noticed that it was higher, or was there a memo passed out? When did this all begin?
Okay, thank you once again. The increment started last year, and as a result of that, we had other things we did, because it was not just this year that the increment started. Last year they had over 100% increments, and some had about 67% increments. And as a result of that, we even had an audience with the Senate president. And in the process, while they were deliberating on our matters, they started the ASU strike. And then due to the fact that the government, the federal government and ASU could not come to a suitable, will I say, reconciliation, now bulletins from various schools came out that there is an increment in tuition fees. It started with Federal University Kashere, where the new students are actually paying more than what the returning students paid when they first came to the school. And then followed by University of Maiduguri, whereby they released a bulletin of what every student is going to pay. So this was how we found out that there was an increase, and a committee was set to check all those things. They did the investigation, and that is why.
You mean a committee of the student wing, or do you mean the NAN? So what
no,
body?
The committee of the student wing
of
the coalition of Northern Group.
Okay.
And then they checked all those things and discovered that the increment, basically in the 3 universities that we mentioned, was actually beyond what our brains could actually believe.
But is this across board, or is it some universities, or you know, someone made you know, the allusion that perhaps it's just for state universities? You know, is it federal, state? Is it for all departments? Because in your press briefing there, you mentioned departmental increase. So
yes.
Is it that these things are pockets, or it's happening, you know, across board? It's
actually across board, because University of Maiduguri is a federal university. We have universities like Taraba State University also has had an increment. So it's actually across board. And the reason why we might not have heard, or will I say the public is not very much aware about other increments in other universities, is because these particular universities, the 3 of them to be specific, are actually starting a new session. And there are other universities that they are yet to actually start a new session due to the strike. So it's just a continuation. But eventually, there might be tendencies that there will also be an increment on their side. So before the increment would come from the other universities that are yet to increase theirs, we are deterring it.
That's fair enough. So now let's talk about you know, the effects of what we're seeing now. How is this affecting students generally with the increase in fees? And before that, I'd like to get something. Has there been any communication from the universities or the schools to the students as to this is why we're increasing the fees? Has there been anything of such? Have you been given a reason for this increase?
Basically, there is no reason. And whatever reason they might give eventually is of no use. Why did I say is of no use? Why will you be reviewing tuition fees upward while education is supposed to be free? So what reason do you have for an upward review? Do you understand my question? Like, what reason do they have? There is no communication. They only brought out a bulletin that tuition fees have been reviewed upward. So that is just it. But
you know, when we have interactions with the minister or president of the Ministry of Education, take for instance the former Minister of State, Chukwemeka Nwajuba, the former Permanent Secretary, who is the current TED Fund boss, Sonny Echono, they say that they need a little bit more understanding, from the public, that when we go about, we see the state of the economy and we see increase here and there, that sometimes it's very difficult to shield the educational sector. I'm wondering, if that was the argument, would it make sense to you that there's hardship and it's affecting the education sector too?
It's no justification for an upward review of tuition fees for the public universities.
Well, that's fair enough. Now, I'd like to know though, was there an indication that there might be an increase or betterment in whatever you're currently experiencing in terms of the quality of education you're getting, the facilities? Was that in the equation at all? Will you be getting better lectures? Will you be getting better curriculums for this increase in money? Or is it just an increase in price, but you're getting the same thing you've always got?
First and foremost, it's an increment. If we agree to the increment, it shows that the northern Nigerian students have no hope in education. Secondly, if they are making this increment because they are going to give better services in the educational system, it's still no justification for the fact that there is an increment, because this is northern Nigeria, to be specific. And these same people that are bringing up this matter are people that enjoyed free education. So basically, to us, it is no reason, it is no justification. Medical students are paying close to about 200,000, and then what if that the increment was made and then there is no actually better services? So it is not even a justification, in the sense that Nigeria has been happening to everybody lately. They say hardship is here, hardship is there, but Nigeria is happening to everybody. But if Nigeria will happen to everybody, we must arise from our sleep and from our slumber to make sure that if we cannot have access to the free education that we have been dreaming of, we should at least have access to affordable education.
All right, I think you're making a lot of sense there. Let's hear from, we lost that call. I guess someone was interested in the conversation. But like I said before, let's get into how it's affecting students. You can speak generally, and then specifically for northern students.
Yeah.
What is this doing, to students and perhaps parents?
First, the increment is devastating the students psychologically, mentally, and emotionally. These students can't even concentrate to study because they are thinking of what to do, thinking of how to get finances to meet up this increment. Already we have spent over 8 months at home. For some universities it's about 11 months, and coming back to school or resuming back to school to meet an increment is not good at all. Northern Nigeria, to be specific, we are not financially buoyant, as we are home to bandits, we are home to Boko Haram, we are home to ISWAP, we are home to a lot of things that is happening in this country. And then not having access to education is another trauma that we are not ready to experience again. The students are at the receiving end of this, because the university lecturers are already angry and agitated that they had to stay for months without their fees and coming back to school, and this is the increment. The students are at the receiving ends. Our parents are at the receiving end of this. Every quarter in this country, or every region, has a quota in the federal system and also for appointments. The fact that this increase or this increment has been made is actually depriving the North of their own quota, because they can't afford to pay the fees, they can't afford to be in school, then they can't afford to also be there where they need to be. This increment is also creating a social gap between the haves and the haves not, thereby impoverishing the region, which is the North, the more.
That's a certain picture there. You mentioned insecurity, ISWAP, and thereabouts. There's a fear that issues of education or problems usually leads to insecurity. is there an aspect of that here? Are some students giving up, or going home? I just heard a story from a student in the office here, an IT student, that one of our classmates says he might as well give up. He wasn't, that's, quote unquote, school is a scam, which is not, that is not a message we're passing here at all. But, that rhetoric is already growing, and now they just believe, well, if I can't pay my school fees, let me go out and find something, perhaps not legal. So is that a valid fear here, that students could be turning to vices due to this?
Absolutely. When a student can afford the fees and the tuition, and then there is no system created by this government to make the workload lesser, the student have no choice than to drop out. And then when a student drops out of school, there is a higher tendency of getting involved in illegal activities than actually in legal activities. I want you to know and put this to note that in the course of the 7 to about 11 months of strike, the rate of social vices in this country have increased beyond control. Now, schools are not even affordable at all. The schools have resumed, and the fees are not affordable. I want you to know that the rate of social vices in this country will even triple the one that has been existing, because they can't afford to pay the fees. The next thing is Boko Haram. Is that they said already that education is evil, so they will definitely join it, because the system is not even providing means to assist that. The ladies will be forced into early marriages. Teenage pregnancy is on the increase. Thuggery, rape, assassination, armed robbery, a lot of things. So the rate of social vices will actually increase drastically, and that is not the future that we want to live in or live for the next generation.
Indeed. Now let's move to the next step. What you will do? What we see from your message there that you want to ground the activities on campuses or thereabouts. How would you go about that? Okay.
First and foremost, we are calling on all stakeholders in Nigeria.
Sorry to cut you short. Just for clarity.
Okay.
This increase, is it happening only in northern states, or you are concerned for your region particularly?
We are particularly concerned for our region,
but have you heard of increase in the south or other regions?
There are other increases.
All right, go ahead.
But we are more concerned for the north. And as a result of that, we are calling on all stakeholders to get into consultations with these schools and with the government and bring an end to this. Secondly, we are calling on the vice chancellors that they should make sure no student is dropping out of school due to this increment. Third, we are also calling on businessmen within the domains of this region that it is part of their social responsibility to give back to the community or to the society. They should step into this. They should make education affordable. They should make the learning environments conducive for the students. And the federal government should also look into this, because they are more interested in electioneering, more interested in securing the next political position than in educating this region or this country. And in line to that, if all these things are not being put in place, we are afraid because there are massive consultations going on already, that we are going to actually shut down activities from the highways to the campuses, because you cannot afford to pay. Why are you coming to school? Let the schools be shut down and let the federal government listen to us, because it's the only language this government understands, the language of fairness, that you should come out there and tell them what it is. And we are ready to make this happen, because massive consultations are ongoing in the whole region in regards to this, and they should look into this, because the pains, the anger in the minds of students is beyond what they can ever imagine. In fact, I want you to know that the youth, who are basically 80% of the students in the public universities, especially in the north, are agitated, and that number of students can actually bring a revolution that they are not even ready for.
That's interesting. In this, this consultation you speak about, is there a level of collaboration between your body, perhaps the National Association of University Students, NANs and thereabouts, or is this a separated fight where you come with your own agitations and they come with that? Because if I recall, the NAN's president also, made a declaration to this same matter. Are you all working together, or are you working in silos?
First, I will say is CNG is not a body that is interested in giving up the struggle. We are a people of integrity. We are a people that are ready to take this to whatever level, as long as there will be protections of the lives and the rights of the northern students. As such, in respect of that, the CNG is making consultations with major stakeholders, to be specific, and we are a home to over 20 million northern students. So in lines of that, we have access to all the universities in the 19 northern states and Abuja inclusive. And we are not only interested in just contacting stakeholders, we are also consulting from the grassroots, from the students to the school authority to the major stakeholders. So basically, CNG Student Wing is working on this to make sure that nobody, no organization is compromising the struggle. And in respect of that, we are dealing directly with the people affected, both those oppressed and those oppressing the oppressed.
That's fair enough. I think at this point we'll take a quick break and we'll take a look at what the NAN's president has to say on the matter. When we return, we'll talk more on your plans and what you hope to do. And also an interesting aspect of this that we can't ignore. You've mentioned elections. If that is what is going to dominate the conversation, I think students have to find a way to get into that conversation so they can be heard. So we'll talk about that and more when we return. Let's take a look at what the NAN's president has to say.
Is strongly condemning the well-coordinated increment in school fees by various institutions across the country, secretly, without engaging the leadership of student body from the SUD down to the national level of NANS. That with the recent economic hardship, high inflation and low income rate, such action may lead to dropping out of our students from school. As advocate of good education, NANS will not fold her arms and allow that to happen. A task force shall be set up to interface and work with the relevant agencies of government when necessary to end this long queue being experienced presently across the country. That the leadership of NANS is hereby giving the NNPC the ultimatum of 1 week from the day of this release to make available petroleum product in the market at the approved price across the country to consolidate the subsidy being paid by the government. The CBN should provide an immediate platform for both parties to engage on areas of concern on the peculiarities of the new cash policy on our campuses to ascertain whether Nigerian students will support the policy or go against it.
Well, there you have it, the NAN's president speaking on the same matter and the adverse effects it's having on students. Now let's talk more about consultations that you spoke about. I know there's consultations amongst yourself, students and thereabouts. What about the government or these schools? Are they open to conversation, or is it a case of we've increased it, take it or leave it?
Presently, we have sent out letters to the VCs, and there's also consultations amidst students and the students management of various universities. And any other consultations that will be done, you'll definitely hear from us, because we are not a talk organization. we are a do organization. We are more interested in actions. We are results oriented, and you'll definitely see the result once it's out.
That's fair enough. We actually had the Vice President for an interview, and we had another guest who spoke to him about the power of students and how students are not as respected as they used to be. And the Vice President made it clear that they have to follow processes, consult before confrontation. So I think that's the steps we are seeing now also across board. Now let's move over to what you mentioned about how everyone seems to be concerned with elections. Which is very fair. It dominates the conversation these days. Election is the main thing now. And these are the ways that students can get to have perhaps their agenda at the front run. I'd like to know, before we speak on generally what students hope to gain or their plans, let's talk about the PVC collection we saw just now. A party has raised concerns that because students were on strike for so long during the period or the last period of PVC registration, that some of them were home and registered at home. Now they're in school, and now they have to collect PVCs, and that students might end up getting disenfranchised because they can't go back home and collect PVCs. I'd like to get your thoughts on how much do you think this would affect students and their ability to, decide who their leaders are in the next election?
Oh, thank you. It is noteworthy that I have never seen a time that students are so interested in the politics of this country like now. And I want to tell you without a doubt that I am confident as a student, and I have great confidence in other students. In fact, as I'm talking to you right now, I've heard conversations where other students are saying that when it is time for election, whether lectures are ongoing in school or not, they will go to where they had their registrations and cast their votes. But I will be making a plea to INEC that if it is possible for them to actually create a system whereby a person can cast his vote, whether he is where he registered for the voter's card or not, then it will really be a thing of appreciation for the student, so that the students could actually cast their vote wherever they are without being disenfranchised. But if that system will not be available, the students are ready to go far and wide to make sure that they have exercised their civil right this season.
That's interesting. It's good to hear that zeal to carry out your civic responsibility. So now the question is, as a student, what are you looking for in the next leadership of the country or your region or wherever you may be? What are those things, those qualities and those things that you want from the leader, and what areas specifically do you want them to focus on?
First, we have been saying it, we will not stop saying it, and we will never get tired. We want leaders that have integrity, leaders that are credible, leaders that will be available to hear our cries, leaders that have track records, leaders that have the people at heart. These are the kind of leaders we want. People that the students can approach them and tell them these are their problems, and they will listen to them. From the grassroots, that's from the ward election up to the presidential election. We are not just going to vote anybody. We are going to vote people that are credible and well deserving for that position, because we know that they have the students at heart.
Will age be a factor in this? Does your candidate have to be a young person?
I will choose not to say anything in regards to that. And that is why we are basically looking at the qualities of leadership. It is the qualities we are interested in. It is not a person. It is not a party. We are looking at the qualities. And that is why I tell you, it has to be a person with integrity, a person that is credible, a person that is available, a person with track record, a person we can trust as students.
All right, that's fair enough. Now, I'd just like to get your general thoughts on some things that some candidates have proposed. We have some candidates who are proposing some sort of public-private partnership in terms of education and funding. We have other candidates who've suggested student loans. I'd like to know, which of these appeals to you? I know the premise of the conversation is that you are against school fees hike, but if there was a system created such that the fees are to increase, but jobs were guaranteed at the end of of your school term, unlike some of what we are seeing now, where you can be done with your schools and you might spend longer looking for jobs. And then we have the idea of student loans, where the government will basically pay for your tuition, and then once you're employed, you can start to pay back instrumentally. I don't know, how do these ideas land with you?
Okay. In the foreign cities or foreign countries, there is a flexible system whereby the students are in school, they are working, and they are also having flexible hours working. But the first thing we have to consider is, in a country, my country, Nigeria, is that the workload in school is one thing. Secondly, if you're to work and then come to school, you discover the students might be running night shift most of the times to be able to attend lectures in the morning. They will come to these classes tired, and they will not be productive. So there's also an issue of time management. They cannot juggle these things together, working and then schooling. And then when the government says they are going to provide loans for students, whereby it will ease those workload for them while they are in school, it's still not a justification for the hike, because education is supposed to be free. That's the basic. Education is supposed to be free, and if education can't be free, it should be affordable. We're very serious about the fact that education should be affordable. And when they said the Speaker House of Reps was talking about the loan bill, where they give you access to loans and all of that. If they are also going to give access to loans, we are not still agreeing to the hike, but the loans should be flexible. There should be flexibility in the repayment clauses, and not providing payment plans where it will end up impoverishing the student again. And then even if they are to hike these tuitions to give us the assurance that there will be jobs, is how many assurances have we not heard in this country? How many people have not come and told us this and that, and they did a direct opposite of it? We have heard more and more promises and assurances, and we have seen nothing. And when they come, they will tell you it's Nigeria. Nigeria is happening to everybody. Nigeria is happening to everybody, but who is at the receiving end? We are still against the hike in tuition fee, whatever it is that they'll be bringing on board that will not bring free education should bring in affordable education. Nigeria is a very rich country. Nigeria is a very rich country. In a country as this, there are different people in public offices embezzling different amounts of money in billions, and not just billions of naira, and billions of dollars. As a result of this cash policy, we see a lot of people that are trying to rush their monies to the banks, and they got caught by the EFCC and all of that. This country is rich. They have the money. It is public funds. Use it for the public. It is very important that we do that. And whether there will be a partnership between the private or public sector, all we want is free education. And if we can have free education, we should have affordable education.
That's fair enough. I like your zeal and your passion, but I wonder, do you have any any fears that you might be, for lack of a better word, attacked? I don't mean perhaps physically, but for your stance, taking into account what happened recently with a young man who made comments about the First Lady, and he got arrested. He was about to be arraigned. He was allegedly, tortured, and then he came out through the help of the nuns at the end of the day. Does this in any way, deter you or make you want to, hold back when you speak? And also, what are your comments on that incident generally?
First, Nelson Mandela was jailed. There are a good number of people that were fighting for the freedom and justice of their people, and they were arrested, they were jailed. I'm not afraid. Why am I not afraid? I'm not afraid because this is what we subscribed for. It's part of the subscription, it comes with it. When I was saying we are ready, I meant we are ready, not they were ready. I meant including me, I am ready. And when you are ready for something, especially for things like this, first you have to know that your life is at stake. Your property is at stake. Your family members are at stake. Whatever it is that you have that is in your name will definitely be at stake. And even this life in the air that I breathe will definitely be at stake. And if this is what we subscribed to and we say we are ready, I mean, I am ready for this. I am not afraid of what will come after this. But one thing that will be great about it is that posterity will record that we do not agree to the fact that the northern student will not have access to education. I would rather not be alive than stand and watch that happen. Because in our time, it should be recorded that we came out and we stood for what we believe is just, true, and fair. This is what humanity is all about. Humanity is not the ability for you to be human and all. No, humanity is the best life lived for others. And this is our lives. If today I agree to this, I assure you my children will come and experience this. Their children will come and experience this. And tomorrow, education will be a mirage for a northern student. We will not be alive to let that happen. Thank you.
That's fair enough. Just a few more questions now. Is there any agitation for the actual quality? You know, are there changes or improvements you would like to see
in the education?
The quality of the education. Well, we're talking about the price. Now let's talk about the quality, facilities, the curriculum, and everything that students are getting. First,
I want you to know that as a result of coronavirus, that's COVID-19 2020, and this 8-month strike, our ID cards have graduated before us. That is one. Secondly, we expect to see a conducive learning environment. You can't be in a classroom that is containing over 500 to 1,000 students and some are sitting on the floor. We need to have access to better learning equipment. We need public addressing systems. A lecturer is standing at the front of the lecture hall and he is talking on top of his voice, and those even in the middle cannot hear him. We need better things. This government can do better. The universities themselves can do better. And there are some people that you go to, there are some science laboratories, you go there and you can't even have access to the chemicals to use in the laboratory. That is if it is not even empty. So we expect to see a better learning and a conducive environment for learning and better access to quality education. We do not want to produce half-baked graduates in this country. We want graduates that can stand anywhere and be proud that they are Nigerians, not just educated Nigerians, but literate, educated Nigerians.
That's fair enough. So finally, just to round it up, I'd like your final words to your fellow students. What do you have to tell them now with this new development of increased school fees? For those that want to give up, for those who want something to happen, for those waiting to hear from what their student leaders are doing, you know, before they take action or whatever action they want to take. And also your message to other stakeholders, the government, the vice chancellors and so on. What would you like them to take away from everything you've said today?
My fellow students, I want you to know that you are not alone in this. We are all together in this. And we are not going to stop here until we see that the final whistle is blown, either for free education or for affordable education. And for any further action that will be taken. We encourage that you should also contact our state coordinators across the 19 northern states for actions that will be taken in respect to this. And our stakeholders, we call on you and we beg you, we plead with you that you should reject this increment in totality, and you should also give back to the community and to your society by also bringing up things that will make education affordable and conducive for all Nigerian students. And in the light of that, I encourage us all to come out of our covens, come out of our cracks, come out of our homes, of our hostels, and make sure that we exercise our civil right, which is voting, come February 2023, and let's vote into power leaders that will bring a better change into this situation. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Musa Gimba Bukunga, for your thoughts and your encouragement. We do hope to see. We hope this turns out peacefully, and it doesn't go any further. But we also understand that you're fighting for your rights, and we hope it all turns out well. Thanks for coming.
Thank you very much. Thanks for having me.
No problem. All right, that's what we take on this segment of the Polity. We'll bring you more updates now, and when we return, the program continues. We'll be right back. Stay with us.